So, let's talk about it. Welcome to Conversations with Kiah, where we just talking through life's BS because somebody has to. I'm Kiah, raised in trauma like most of us, full of common sense that don't seem to exist anymore. Doing my best to keep my anxiety in check, all while staying out of prison. Conversations with Kiah, say it how I see it.
Hey, welcome to Conversations with Kiah. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad you found your way to my little corner in the internet. And if you were here the last episode, how you doing? You all right? I ain't go to bed. We got a part 2. We're talking about season 1, The Art of Feeling Good. And lately we've been discussing the word curating, paying attention to what belongs in your life, what feels aligned, what actually supports the kind of days you're trying to live, child. In the last episode, we talked about curating your table when it comes to friendships. That part, that's easy. Strangers, that's the easy part. Family, totally different. We grow up hearing the same things over and over again. It becomes automatic. You can't choose your family. Blood is thicker than water. You only get one. I know you've heard those. And I'm not saying that those ideas are wrong. Let me go ahead and say that. I just think as you get older, relationships don't all sit in the same space anymore. Some family members feel very natural to be around. You enjoy genuinely spending time with them. If y'all weren't related, hell, you'd still be friends. Then you got some other relationships that still matter. They still have history. They still deserve respect, but they don't necessarily belong in your everyday space. So today, we're talking about curating your table, especially when family is involved. All right, now you know how I roll. Before we get deep into this, let's step over to the bar. Welcome to Cocktails and Carry-Ons. For those of you that do not know, as a little flight attendant, Lord knows I love telling people that as a little flight attendant. And while layovers can absolutely involve some of the very cutest cocktails, hate to break it to you, your flight attendants are not your bartenders in the sky. But I got you covered. Now this week's conversation is a little bit heavier, and because it is, we're doing something that has a little bit more bite, okay? If you're drinking alcohol, you can go with Cran and Jack Daniels. All you need is ice, a mini bottle of Jack, cranberry juice, and if you can get a lime wedge, squeeze that right in there too. Now, if you've been here before, you already know what I'm going to say. Travel with crystallized lime, okay? Trust me, they take up no space, they don't make a mess, and suddenly anything that you're drinking in the air feels a bit more elevated. I personally use the ones from a company called True. They have lime, lemon, and orange packets. At this point, I talk about them so much, they really should be cutting a check, okay? So if y'all are listening, hey, flight attendant here, call me, okay? Give your drink a quick stir, and you're all set. Easy. It's strong. It's a little tart. It knows exactly what it is. Now, if you're not drinking like me, okay, that's all right. I got something for you too. We're going to keep it simple. Now, I already have my drink because I'm doing a part 2 episode. Coke, lime, ice. Not Pepsi, Coca-Cola. There's a difference. It feels a little bit more intentional than just grabbing whatever is handed to you. And honestly, that's what today's conversation is about. Being intentional. Choosing what you allow close to you. Choosing what sits in your space. All right. Now that we got our drink and something to sip on, let's go talk. In our last episode, we talked about curating your table when it comes to friendships. When it comes to people that, excuse me, you aren't related to, it is socially acceptable to admit that certain people just don't fit in your life. But with family, you cannot do that. Family is different. Some people in your life from your family are present. You talk often, you call and check in, you actually enjoy being around each other. There's ease there. You don't have to brace yourself before you see them. Ain't no performing, ain't no managing the mood of a room. You can just be you. And then there's that family that lives a lot farther outside of that, okay? And it's not because you don't care, but because the way you move through life is just different. I think most of us as adults have already seen that and we know what that is. We know what that's like. There's always someone, though, like a cousin who you can hit up and y'all talk for hours, or a sibling who knows who you really are as an adult and how you got that way. And an aunt or uncle or grandmother who just feels like a safe place for your heart. And then we all know what it's like to have those people that you see during the holidays or when something important happens. And that distance usually feels right to you. Not dramatic, just accurate. For me, I started realizing that every relationship didn't need to end. Some just needed to be handled. Some with a little bit more intention, others with space, and many with bringing my own awareness of what I was calling into my own circle. Where I come from, there's a saying, it's called feeding people with a long handled spoon. You still show up for those people. You still care. You still acknowledge the connection. They are family. But you don't have to be shoulder to shoulder, buddy in everyday life with them. And sometimes that looks like showing up for only the moments that matter. I recently did it. I went to a funeral for one of my mother's cousins. There was a bunch of drama. I could have very well stayed home, but I went for that person's oldest daughter. I am my mother's only daughter. My mother is a first daughter. First daughters and big sisters mean something to me, for sure. And me and her are not close. We don't talk. But I showed up because in my life, for my walk, I've chosen to believe that family shows up when someone passes. I think there should be a representative. That's just one of the values that I've decided to carry forward. And curating my table isn't about just who I get to laugh with, who I get to go on trips with, but it's also about surrounding myself with people, friend or family, who share certain core understandings, who share certain core values. How we show up matters to me. How we celebrate matters to me. How we move through life in real situations matters to me. Over time, I started to notice something else. When I showed up in certain familial places, they weren't just hard and uncomfortable, but I couldn't celebrate who I was there. I couldn't be myself there. I couldn't celebrate my wins there. And that was confusing for me because I've never understood jealousy. That's one of those emotions I just don't fully understand. I don't feel better when people are struggling, whether they're strangers or whether they're family. So being in an environment where I was only accepted or it was only balanced when I was going through it, when I was down on my luck, it felt like a no for me. At some point, I realized I wanted to be surrounded by people who shared joy in me like I shared in them. People who normalized happiness and welcomed growth. People who didn't make themselves smaller and who I didn't have to make myself smaller for. Sometimes curating your table doesn't mean just adjusting the distance. Sometimes it means making decisions that you never thought you would have to make. That is real with me and my mother. I have not spoken to my mother since March 2023. And that decision did not happen overnight. Yes, I am a no-contact child. That decision wasn't easy, y'all. It was a conversation that started real low years ago. And then one day, I couldn't ignore the shouting anymore. When I started building my own future, my own family, my own peace, the stakes felt different. And for the first time, I shifted my loyalty away from my mother and towards my forward, towards the life that I was creating, towards the peace that I was protecting, towards me and protecting me. Now, let's talk about this no contact thing real quick. I'm going to be honest. Do I miss my mama? Hell yeah. Her birthday is coming up this week. And my daddy's supposed to be taking her on a cruise. Look, when me and my mama were good, I was the one that made sure that her birthdays and her holidays were what she wanted. I don't carry that obligation anymore. But do I carry that concern? Yeah. I love her. Let's be honest. Ooh. But I gotta say, the peace that has come from breaking that cycle has been invaluable. I don't know if it hurts to say that because it's true or because I love myself more now. Tag. That's not in my notes, y'all. Ooh-wee. Curating your table isn't just about who you give space and time in your life. It's also about who you give your love, your care, your presence, your energy, your positive to. You know, over time, I've started noticing something. I've started noticing that the spaces that I've invested in, honestly and positively, feel intentional. They feel chosen. They feel mine. Not perfect, not controlled. Like walking through a gallery that I curated. It's like being in that museum with all these different pieces, these different experiences, these different choices, these different people, these different energies. The life you're building is supported in that gallery. Dag. And it's not because everything and every experience, everything in this gallery has agreed with each other. It's because there's a mutual effort, understanding, and care. Dag. I need to talk to my friend group. Curating your table isn't about pushing people out. It's just as much about drawing them in. Are you making the effort? Are you showing up where it matters? Are you assessing those core beliefs that are shared? I think it's about choosing where you are willing to really live. I do. I went off script with that one, y'all. We're going to keep this like this. I like it. Before we get out of here, you know we got to do some unsolicited advice. This one is really for all of us people who are tired of the mayhem, okay? The constant noise, the feeling that things in the U.S. and what we have caused are just getting more and more chaotic. If that's been weighing on you, remember, you are not powerless yet. We still have choices. You can look up your local and federal representatives through USA.gov. You can send emails, phone calls, even post them on social media, attach them in your social media. Any issue that matters to you, address it. I'm not telling you what side of what to be on. I'm just telling you, you still have a voice, okay? Now, if you're not sure how to use that voice, there is a website called 5calls.org. You can generate a script regarding issues that matter to you. You can then print that out and edit it all you want. Now, my favorite, you can also call the U.S. Capitol Switchboard. Their number is 202-224-3121. I'll say it louder for the ones in the back, 202-224-3121. You can contact your senator or representative. Small actions count, guys. Consistency still matters. Whew. This was heavy. That's what's on my heart today, y'all. This conversation about curating your table, especially when it comes to family, it was not an easy one. As you can see, I missed last week and I had to drop 2 episodes in 1 week. It's difficult. But figuring out who is close to you, who sits in your face, who you show up for, and where you're willing to give your full energy to, that's a part of growing, and we should discuss it. So, as usual, if something in our episode hit home for you, or you're thinking about your own relationships a little differently, I'd love to hear from you. You can always reach me at conversationswithkiah, Kiah, @gmail.com. Thank you for spending time with me. And I promise I'm going to go to bed for real. Like right after I edit this, I'm going to bed. Be gentle with yourselves. See you next week. Bye, guys.
Yeah. Well, we just talking through life's BS because somebody has to.